Welcome to the Six Figure Personal Stylist Podcast, the ultimate no BS business podcast for ambitious personal stylists ready to build a six-figure and beyond personal styling business. You won't hear the typical snooze fest business advice that most personal stylists get told all of the time. Nope, instead, I'll be sharing business building strategies that will help you create a killer personal brand, a cult following of loyal personal styling clients, and make a ton of cash while creating lasting style transformations for your clients. I'm Nicole Achi, your host and a former personal stylist of 14 years who built a lucrative styling business in 3 major cities, but only after spending years trying to crack the six-figure styling business code without burning out. And now I'm here to tell you how to do exactly the same. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think will help a lot of us understand why your business may not be growing as fast as you want, or if you're feeling a little bit like, okay, we're into March of the new year and you've lost your focus, or it's been really busy and you're trying to figure out what to do next to move your business to the next level. This conversation about the stages of building a personal styling business, I think will be super, super helpful. When we're trying to solve problems that aren't relevant to our current stage of business, it makes the whole experience of running a business so much harder, and it can make us doubt ourselves. And I've seen this at all levels, and I felt this at all levels. I felt that in this business. And so I want to talk about the phases that I came up with from both being a stylist for many years and from working with so many stylists at different levels, and what I think of as the quote unquote problem that I want you to have at every level. Because business never comes without a problem, but sometimes we forget that the problem we have today is the problem we wished for yesterday. And so this will help you feel better, because that's the way we play the game. There's no getting out of it, but knowing the appropriate quote problem to be solving at each level will make a huge difference in just how you go about maintaining your energy, and just also not comparing yourself falsely to other people, because you don't know how many years of business someone's been in. And also, just because you're in business for a certain amount of time doesn't mean that you're at a different level. And that's really important, why we can't compare ourselves to other people. For example, if we're focusing on advanced marketing strategies, but we haven't mastered the basics of working with a client one-to-one, or we're trying to scale before we have found the service and the marketing strategies that get us to consistent income months, we're going to feel scattered and wonder why we're burnt out, but we're not getting to the next level. If we're kind of bored in our business because we've been doing it for a while and we're at consistent income months, but we're kind of not sure if what our next thing is. Do we get help? Do we hire a team? Do we change our business altogether? We're going to feel very fearful about what our next step is. And so understanding that at each level, you're going to face different things, and it's totally normal, is going to help you move out of it more quickly, but also be more creative. And as we go through these phases, like I said, I want to remind you that years in business and skill as a stylist is not the same as business phase or business level. Okay, these are the stages of building a business. You can come with a ton of styling skills, you can come with none. You can come with past prior experience to a business or not. But either way, just because you have a lot of time with a website saying you're a stylist or working with people maybe when you worked in retail doesn't mean you have all of the things you may need, or it's super clear what the next level is going to be in your business, okay? Because I've seen stylists hit the growth phase, which is phase 2, in 6 months, like my client Barry, who you've heard on this podcast back when I launched. Well, I've heard and worked with many, many more who have stayed in phase 2, this same phase, for years. Barry went from mastery, phase 1, to growth, phase 2, in 6 months. Not everybody does that. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that was the case for her. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why I see this with stylists all the time that get to that phase. And then I see people that have been doing this for a long time and are still trying to get to consistent income months. And so what matters is mastering the key skills and challenges at each phase before we move forward to the next one, not on being overly hung up on the years it took us to get there. I can say that myself, as I've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast. It took me 6 years to hit 7 figures. And I think it took me so long because I had so much shame about how long it was taking me to get to the next level. Instead of someone breaking it down like this and being like, hey, maybe just focus on this problem for right now. And we can worry about all the other problems later and you'll probably get to the next phase faster. So let's dive into what these stages look like. And most importantly, what you should be focusing on in each one. I want to briefly, before we get into the official stages of business, talk about the pre-launch phase. And this isn't a phase I talk about often on this podcast because I have launched this business speaking to established personal stylists. I will be speaking to more groups of people in the coming year/years. But for right now, I just want to speak to this because I have helped lots of folks before I opened the styling consultancy start their business from scratch in many other businesses that train stylists. So I have a lot of experience with this. I just think that established stylists are the most neglected group. So I came out the gate with that group. But the pre-launch period is before we're in a business officially. So let's kind of think about this as like you're not officially a stylist to the public, right? You don't have a website yet. Maybe you have another job. You aren't sure that you want to make this like your profession, quote unquote. But you do like style. It's been on your mind. You're considerate. I want to tell you what I want you to focus on in that phase before you start putting time and money into a business. Because after just launching Income Accelerator again this round, I talked to a lot of stylists and I have had a lot of conversations qualifying stylists and saying, you know what, you're just not ready for this program. And I think there's a big misunderstanding that like just because you have a website and your friends and family or whatever have worked with you, that like you have a business. You can have your own bank account, you can have everything, but you don't have a business if people are not hiring you that are not your friends and family. And so I think we don't set people up to understand what kind of skills they should be getting while they're waiting to have the time, the money, or put their focus solely on a business, because it's not fair. Building a business is hard. And I think most people can do it that really care about personal styling, but it's not about whether you can do it. It's about if you want to do it. Because what we learn when we become stylists is not everybody wants to style strangers. That actually maybe what we liked about styling was that we knew our friends and family and we enjoyed time with them. And that may not be the case, but I think that just to save everybody the heartache and also to save you, if you're in this phase, later on, you're going to have moments of self-doubt because that's how it works when you try something new. If you get in the pre-launch phase kind of milestones I'm going to talk about before you launch a business, you're going to feel much more confident in your choice to have launched a business because you will have done all of the due diligence that it takes. And I think a lot of people sit in this like unsure, neither in nor out stage when they first launch a business because they haven't done some of the work and now the pressure is on to be paid for it. And they don't even have the skill yet of styling. So you want to make sure before you launch a business as a stylist that you have the skill part of being a stylist down. And what I see is sometimes when we come from the retail world, we think, well, then I have all the skills. But you want to be able to do that to each of the things I'm talking about outside of the store and outside of friends and family and outside of like safe people. You know what I mean? Because the store is going to bring in the people on its own, right? But you are going to have to learn how to approach people and have conversations with people that doesn't have the benefit of the retailer you work for. And if you're someone like me who came from like a normal quote office job, you probably don't have that much experience styling people to begin with. And so trying to launch a business like I did before I had the experience, don't recommend that, was very overwhelming because instead of being able to say like, okay, right now I'm focusing on the styling. And then once I get these milestones done, I'll focus on the business. That would have been way better for me in terms of building my confidence and also saving money. Because I was putting money into like websites back in the day when you couldn't like get a template or use Canva well before I was ready. And then thinking I was like, you tend to like lie to yourself and think that you're failing in business when like actually you just have a website. Like you have no skills in a website and you're like, why isn't this not producing money? Like that websites don't make us money. Messaging does. So when you're in this, I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I should commit phase, you want to make sure you know how to do the basics of a closet edit, a shopping session, online and in person. I would recommend you getting your start in person, even if you plan on going virtual. And then styling sessions or lookbooks. So actually putting the outfits on people's bodies and also like making those outfits, either taking photos of them and putting them in like a Canva document for someone, or taking individual pieces if you shop online for them and putting them into fully styled looks again in Canva. You don't have to buy professional software until you're ready. At this phase, you want to practice with friends and family. You want to say, hey, mom, can I help you edit your closet? Hey, sister's friends, hey, whoever. The best you can do before you launch a business is have it worked with people one step outside of your friends and family. So maybe your sister's friend or your mom's friend, or I worked with a lot of my mother-in-law's friends, but people that like you don't know well, but you know comfortable enough to like practice with, right? And you're still going to give them a lot of value because they're probably not going to sit around and do their closet without somebody there to hold their hand, right? So don't be shy about asking this. People love this. And a lot of people really love helping out people that are starting their business. So just in exchange for a testimonial can be so helpful. And also, you're going to feel so awesome launching a business with testimonials under your belt. Trust me. So you want to make sure you're getting your closet edit, styling sessions, and shopping sessions in person down to 3 hours or less. Okay. Do not launch a styling business when you're still doing 17-hour closet edits, my loves. Okay. 3 hours. 3 hours for everything. This is going to shock some established stylists too. So this is what someone told me the other day. They were like, if you just told people your like rule about snacks and like blood sugar in business, people would pay you money just for that. So my thing is, you don't want to work with a client for long enough in person or online that their blood sugar could drastically dip in the time that you are with them, because it's going to deeply impact their ability to make decisions. And my first coach and the person who taught me how to be a stylist, she taught me this and always taught to have snacks on hand and protein on hand. Like seriously, this woman was a genius. And I have lived and died by that I even live and die by it now. I live and die by it with my 3-year-old. I live and die by it in like all situations, because if people start to get hungry and need to make decisions, they will start to tap out and they will wrongly associate your styling service with that negative experience. So always have protein. Number one, protein bars, protein shakes, as much protein as possible, especially in person, especially when shopping and in closet edits. And also make sure you tell people to eat before your sessions. This is going to sound crazy, but the amount of prep I have stylists do for their sessions shocks people. And people get such a good experience out of it. People want to be told what to do to make the most out of their investment. And that's what this is. So you need to make sure that you're fueling your body, which is a whole other course I feel like we should have, which is just like how to prepare yourself physically as a stylist, especially if you're in person. And getting in the reps of closet edits, shopping in person, shopping online, because that's going to take you a long time behind the scenes. So expect that, right? Building up an arsenal of retailers that you want to pull from over and over again, having those links available to you, building up your own assets in your business in terms of like whatever is going to make you or shopping and your styling faster. Maybe you have bookmarked all the retailers that have different types of styling, adjectives, or like, boho style or, classic style. Maybe it's by price range, whatever that looks like. Get those things honed in while you are in this pre-launching of a business phase, okay? Get your sessions down to under 3 hours and really just try to get as much experience with as many people in your friend group and outside of it, in your family group and outside of it as possible before we move into working with strangers. So then we're getting to the official phase 1 of mastery. And the mastery phase begins when you've made the leap to professional styling. So your main focus here is on gaining real world experience with clients outside of your immediate circle. This is when I'm like, you want to do this, get that website going, open that Instagram account, all of that. And this is critical because it's in this phase that you need to learn how to read strangers' body language and reactions to your picks so that you can learn how to manage your own emotions around clients. You need to develop your ability to notice what makes people get stuck at certain parts of the process. Notice how people react when you say that you're going to take their clothes away after an edit, or notice how people feel about going over in terms of how much they budgeted for their shopping sessions. You need to be willing to do maybe some unpaid opportunities for exposure. And there are better and worse ones here. A really good example of this is like do lives with other service providers on Instagram. Like do things that help expose your accounts, your business to new people, and do it for free and do it expecting nothing out of it except for the experience, because that exposure alone is great. You don't need to start paying for those things until you really have mastery over working with strangers. But there's no reason why your business doesn't have to be perfect to start getting in front of more people. And so your goal in the mastery phase, okay, this is what is going to be the focus, is to work with as many different types of people as possible outside of your social world who you can get experience from, okay? You can start by doing an hourly rate. You can start by doing it for free. It's up to you how you want to do it. You can do 2 people, then raise the price, and 3 people, do 4 people. But you want to get as many different types of people in different professions, different stages of life, different body types is so important, especially to like in the friends and family and like the pre-launch phase. Try to shop with as many people with different body types in your friends and family as possible. That's going to help you a lot so that when you get to the mastery phase, you have some things to draw on, because a lot of stylists get stuck in the mastery phase where they're trying to build the business. They're trying to figure out how to do social media, but they don't even know what stores to go to for clients that have different types of body shapes that aren't theirs. And that's important. There's tons of stuff on YouTube about this. There's tons of information about dressing different body types, and like take notes, like make a little notebook for yourself so that when you get to this mastery phase, you're able to help for a minimal or a mid-tier kind of price folks that are outside of that group. How are you going to get to these people? You're going to ask you're going to do your friend's sister styling in the pre-phase. And then once you work with her, say, hey, do you have any colleagues at your work? Or do you have any friends that I could, do a closet edit with? Do you have any friends that would want me to shop online with them? Ask everyone in your network. Send out an email to your whole family and say, like, I'm ready to like officially do this. Please give names and have them pass along your social media. You really want to be asking for people outside of your groups of friends and family. And the best way to do that is to get one phase outside of your friends and family and then ask those people for recommendations, okay? Even if you got to do it for free in mastery phase, that's fine, because we're trying to master the business and working with a stranger. This is where we're getting into the business. And we're also trying to, just like get a website up and open our own bank account for your business. You need a bank account for your business, okay? Just to be clear, do not let people Venmo you. At best, you can do PayPal, but you're going to be so happy later on that you have that account set up and everything is clean for your taxes. So mastery phase, the goal here is to get as much experience with as many types of people, because what you want to know, okay, I'm ready to get out of this mastery phase is, number one, you can do those sessions in your sleep, those basic styling sessions we talked about. And from the depth of experience you have with different types of people, that who the group is that you are most excited to work with and who you really want to hone in on, or what style problem you want to hone in on. It doesn't necessarily have to be a niche. Isn't just a group of people. It can be a specific problem. Maybe it's people post-divorce, and you're fine with working with men and women, or just notice what all the different things are that make you like a client. I've had people say, like, what I like about the clients that I've worked with after mastery phase is like the way that they approach the process. Like, and that just, sometimes that's not in a niche. Sometimes that's just like your clients weren't jerks. But like maybe they really wanted to be artistic with their style, but like you can't quite say they didn't all have the same kind of job. That's okay. But you want to know if you could have one conversation about style and you could solve one problem and you could do it for a specific group of people. Well, who would it be? When you have enough experience to confidently do all the aspects of a styling experience, which is the edit, the shop, and the styling, and you know who you're ready to talk to long term, you're ready for phase 2, which is growth. Now, in phase 1, in mastery, you may probably still want to have another job, or maybe you are slowly ramping up to being paid. So it may not be that this is a full-time job here, okay? Because especially if you have no business experience and you have to get a website up and do all this stuff, it can be hard unless you're coming in with a significant budget. So if you're coming in with a significant budget because you're leaving a 6-figure job and you can hire people to do it, amazing. I love that. That's great. But I just want to be clear. Don't expect to have a full-time job, 2 kids, no budget, do your website by yourself, and then get to growth phase in like a minute, because that's crazy. Focus on getting as much experience as possible, even if it means a website later. You don't need a website until you have real serious pricing and stuff. Again, I didn't have a website for the entire year and a half of the styling consultancy and made 6 figures. So you do not need a website, but make sure that, you're at least able to say, here's what I really think is important in styling in terms of the things I am most lit up by before you get to phase 2, which is the growth phase. And this is where the majority of the stylists I advertise to are, and where you can be stuck in for years or months. It really just depends. And I was here for years, full disclosure. And this is when you're working with paid clients regularly, but your income feels like a roller coaster, right? In phase 1, maybe you have income, maybe you don't, and will feel like a roller coaster while you're trying to get those skill sets. But here you already have the experience. You know who you want to talk to. You know what you care about as a stylist. You're well beyond the friends and family phase. And what you really need to think about here is creating stability, developing clear messaging that resonates with your ideal client, building packages now that we already know how to do the basics that align with your target market's needs and their shopping budget, because all of that's kind of relative, and refining your marketing to consistently attract the right clients. So this is where Income Accelerator, my program, is written for, because you can have a ton of experience and you can just have a little bit of experience. But all you really need at this phase is to really know who you want to talk to, because that's how you get your marketing sharp. That's how you build the right types of services. That's how you can create services that don't look like everybody else's, right? You have enough experience in the styling industry to be able to do those things. And what the key factors are of success in the growth phase and this is how you're going to know what will make the biggest difference to you getting to phase 3, which is where everybody wants to be, is what content gets the most engagement, what do your clients say they want more of, and what problems do your ideal clients have that they are most preoccupied with and lead them to hire you. That is the information you want to really be combing through at this stage of business. Most people are like, I want to scale, I want to do this. And so they're ready to go to a group program. But if they can't sell their one-to-one, which their ticket price should be high enough and their number of clients they can even take a year is low enough, you can still have energy to market your business. You can still have, if you're looking at the right things. People try to get to a group program, which I'm not saying you can't get to, but a group program won't take away a lot of your messaging problems. Like if you can't get one person to buy from you, you're not going to be able to get 8 or 10 or 20. Because it's a skill set. It's not just the right words. It's a set of skills and ways of interacting with your audience. If you don't know the right way to talk about the solutions that your ideal clients are most obsessed with that gets them to buy, it doesn't matter if it's one-to-one, a group program, a PDF, no one's going to buy it, because it's a skill that you don't have. It's not just about changing the chairs on the Titanic deck and hoping it doesn't go down, right? You have a fundamental problem that a group program isn't going to change. And so when you're really aware of like, how am I creating content that speaks to these people? Am I getting in environments with them? Am I understanding them? That's why you really have to care about the group you're going into, because you want to think of them as like people you study, right? And when you think of it that way, it's way more fun too. So what you really want to consider in this growth phase is sometimes it feels like you have to slow down a little bit to speed up, because you really want to stop working with just like anyone that will come your way, right? We want to get you really dialed into the right people. So every time you're working and you're talking to clients, you're talking to the right people, it's helping you get ideas for messaging. It's helping you get your marketing better. Your whole business works as an ecosystem, like we talked about a few episodes back. And so that's why growth phase is hard. You have to slow down to speed up. And lots of stylists don't want to do that because they think that it means they're not being successful. They're wrong. It's how you get successful. It's how it happens. There's no other way to do it. And if you want to stay in one-off packages in the growth period, you can. I recommend you play around with one larger styling service. So it's like, the closet edit, the shop, and the style together, and learn how to message that. Because some people find that when their price goes up, they all of a sudden can't talk about the service so great. So you really want to think a lot about how are you developing messaging that hits specifically to that person that you want to work with, to the problem that you want to focus on, and to learn and think about different ways to say those core things in your message that makes people listen. And you have to try it for a while and you have to be consistent. But if you can go through this uncomfortable phase to get to the point where people are like, what to say to get people to hire you, it's a game changer. And then you have a lot more freedom when you go to phase 3, which is the expert phase. So what's so interesting about the expert phase is that everybody wants to be at the expert phase before they've done all the things they need. Because the key to phase 2 is that you have to get yourself to consistent income months. Because in order to be in the expert phase, which is really the scaling phase that people are trying to get into so fast when they haven't mastered the foundation of their business, you need to have consistent income months. So this is phase 3, where people are fully in their expertise. Doesn't mean that everything's perfect, doesn't mean that they're even earning as much as they want, but they're probably at 6 figures. A lot of my clients in this space are. And when I say consistent income months, I don't mean that every month you make $10,000 or $50,000. I mean that like overall, you know that there are sales coming in every month. It may not always be the same amount of money, but you're consistently knowing that like you're gonna have sales this month. And you may have those fluctuations, but we don't need to worry about, I have no idea what to say to get people to buy. We're out of that phase by the time we're in phase 3. Because if you can't get to that point, then being in this expert phase and the things I'm going to talk about, you don't have any foundation for it. And so you'll never be able to make traction. And again, this isn't about making specific amounts of money. It kind of is irrelevant. I would say that by the expert phase, you want to, you have to be paying yourself. You have to be able to know what to say in order to have people come to you. You have to have some money left over to, hire some help. You want to be in a good phase. I think $100,000 is a pretty low a number to be in the expert phase, because there's taxes, there's all the other things that, if you make $100,000, you're not taking that home. You're usually taking home like maybe 60, depending on what your expenses are. So I would like you to be at 120, 125 or above. That's me when I talk to my clients, but you kind of want to be in that phase. This is the only phase that I think a number matters, because you have to be able to pay yourself and you have to have some left over to get to where you want to go. So in this phase 3, you're focusing on building your legacy, really developing your thought leadership, like really, really. You've already started to notice what people resonate with that you care about. So now you're learning how to say these things in even better, more magnetic ways. You're thinking about creating additional revenue streams. That's at scaling. And you're potentially building a team or bringing in junior stylists. Maybe the team is administrative, doesn't matter. And you're really fine-tuning your messaging and your branding. Like, this is when I'm like, yes, go all in, spend a ton of money on your branding, like do an amazing high-end website, because like you have all of that foundation to know your investment's going to be right. You hire a copy editor or copywriter, they're going to know exactly how to like talk to these people, because you're able to tell them exactly who these people are. So the key difference in this phase is your expertise and your messaging make you money beyond just styling sales, one-to-one styling. So this could include multiple group programs. It could include speaking engagements, writing books, consulting within or outside of the industry, creating signature methodologies that you are trademarking, and making sure you have your intellectual property all handled. This is what I'm working with a lot of higher level one-to-one clients on, after they've gotten to the point where they have their signature process down if they have one. They know the kind of angle they're talking about. They're aware of what to say to get people into their one-to-one. They're maybe feeling burnt out with one-to-one because they want to do more of that thought leadership kind of work. Again, it can be a lot of different ways that comes out, but they're ready to take some things off their plate and potentially even build out a styling firm. I have one styling company that's building out multiple, like they're working with like men, they're doing photo shoots for families, they have like all different, so they're building a whole team, which means you have to train them, which means you have to have the training manuals and helping them figure that stuff out. Like there's many levels to this, and this is where you think like, okay, at this phase you have consistent income, you can think about, what do I want my legacy to be? That's very hard to do when you're also trying to get people to listen to you, and you don't know what your legacy can be as a stylist, because if you don't know how to reach people consistently that you can make a difference from, because it's in those conversations that you learn what your greatest ideas are. We tend to think like we do this a lot in isolation, but when we step outside of ourselves and we get really connected to our market, that's when we really learn like where our greatest contribution can be. It has to, of course, come from us and the things we're interested in, but this is why you need to have a certain level of experience before you could be creating signature methodologies and programs and investing in getting things trademarked, because it's a lot of money. So when we're trying to go to, a different phase of business, before we've mastered that phase, we will create problems for ourselves that we will blame ourselves for when we just didn't know that we're trying the wrong problem. And I think it's also helpful to know what these phases are when you're thinking about making an investment and think like, is this going to move me to the next level? Now, these are pretty broad. That's why I teach frameworks and not plans to people, because I'm not saying you have to work with a certain amount of people. I'm not saying you have to have a certain price point. I'm not telling you anything except for what the sort of problems are at each phase you have to figure out, okay? And I think that is the best way to help stylists sort of stay focused, but also not create a bunch of clones, because that is a problem right now. Everyone sounds the same. Everyone's sort of saying the same things. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the message as itself. It just means it's going to be harder for you to move past the levels. And the people that move throughout these stages the fastest, like my client Barry, for example, they really are able to comfortably, they work really hard. I'm not going to lie to you. And they also are okay with standing out, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not completely polished, because your business is a dialogue with your ideal client. And the more comfortable you are with that, the faster you get through all of these stages. Trying to skip ahead will lead to burnout without being booked out. And so I want you to think of it as like building a house. You got to master your foundation, get in the reps with all kinds of people to figure out what you like. Growth, you want to start building the structure, the walls, the plumbing, not always the sexiest part, but like literally critical to the whole thing, working. And then the expert phase is where you kind of add those finishing touches that make it memorable. And I'm not saying you cannot make an impact at every stage, but you'll make the biggest impact if you're focusing on the right things, okay? Because when we focus on the wrong things, we're so overwhelmed that we can't be like the solid base for our clients to have the transformation they need. I want to remind you that your success in this industry isn't about racing to the top. It's not about having the biggest Instagram following or TikTok following. It is about building something sustainable that serves you and your client. And when you focus on mastering the challenges of your current phase without rushing to the next one, you'll hear yourself better to know how you can make the biggest impact, because you and what you like do matter. Sure, there's parts of this that are uncomfortable, and I definitely point those out so that you guys know it's normal to not feel like it's puppies and rainbows and like perfect all the time growing a business, but not because I want you to be uncomfortable all the time, because I want you to know like, oh, that uncomfortable feeling, it doesn't mean you should stop. That's all. Like, it's totally okay. And I want to thank you for tuning in today and remind you that you will like your clients when we say to them, when they want to get to a new type of style for themselves and they want to feel more self-expressed, they're going to have to feel a little uncomfortable. They're going to have to go outside of their comfort zones. They're going to have to learn new skills that will require them to be perceived in public, maybe wearing something or acting in a way that feels foreign to them, and nothing has gone wrong, right? We tell our clients that you might have to feel a little uncomfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to try new things. So don't you. So the growth phase is a lot about that. And that's why I love the growth phase. It's why I work mostly with stylists in the growth phase. I have plenty of clients one-on-one that I work with in the expert phase, but the growth phase is the part that I talk to the most because it's the hardest. And it's also the most magical if you let yourself think of it the way you think of it for your styling clients. So I hope that's helpful. I will talk to you next episode. And hit me up on Instagram. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It turns out that social proof is actually pretty important. So if you could help me out, I'd so appreciate it. If you just had a quick free moment and could leave me a rating or review on the podcast app, that would be killer. And even better, if you wanted to share this episode on Instagram and tag me, that would totally make my day. And it would bring so much more awareness to the podcast and would help other stylists just like you who are looking to build lucrative styling business, because the better each of us does, the better all of us do. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll chat with you next time.